Hey everyone, it's Brian here from Massey's Main Entertainment. We managed to get back in here again 2 weeks in a row. I mean, I feel really special now, guys. We had such a big break there for such a long time. We're actually here for 2 weeks in a row, and we're right in the middle of our series of top 5 movies from every year between 1965 and 1979. We're all the way up to 1975, so we're about halfway through the 70s here, and really kind of excited to do this video. So joining me today is my cast of characters who all have various feelings about how NFL went this weekend. My buddy Rich from Philadelphia, whose team really struggled. Myself, of course, my Cowboys really struggled. And then Doc had to remind us. Doc, welcome, and thanks for the reminder about how bad we played. And the only one who has anything to brag about is Randy from the Midwest Territory there. Randy Nelson's joining us as well. So we're up to 1975. What we're going to be doing today is we're going to be doing our top 5 movies. We'll do it around the horn style. We're going to go 5, 5, 5, 4, 4, 4, count it all the way down, and see how things panned out. I thought my top 3 were going to be in no particular order. The 3 movies were already decided. I just had to decide on the order is what I had to do. And I spent most of the week doing that for my top 3 anyway. What did you guys think of 1975?
Well, I love 1970s in particular, the filmmaking done there. And I ended up choosing 5 of my favorite directors, big star actors and actresses across the board. So I'm living off the star power of the 70s. I like the style of filmmaking that was made back then. So 75 is a great year, like most of the years in that decade.
Yeah. What about you, Doc?
Yeah, I think it's a pretty solid year, man. The top of the list is pretty much in place for me. Might have finagled down the bottom end on 4 or 5 on how I'm going to unfold things, but a little personal love in there, and it's just the way it is. I'll explain that when I get there, but overall, it's a pretty solid year, and like Rich touched on, it's the 70s in movies, man. We're in prime time here, man.
Nice. Yeah. Randy?
I think this is a pretty top year as far as the amount of films considered, because there's quite a few that I hated leaving off.
Right. Yeah. Kind of felt the same way too. So yeah, I thought it was a little bit tough there after I got past the first 3 for sure. And I kind of went with a personal choice maybe on one of them too. But so we're gonna be doing this thing. Tonight's order is going to be Rich is going to be kicking us off first, and then myself, and then Randy, and then Doc finally gets to go last. I know how much he enjoys that. If you get a chance, everybody, please check out our other movie series that's on my channel. Like I said, we do 1965 all the way through 79. So go back and check out those years prior. We're also doing a film director series of top 10 movies for directors, and we have several of those up, like Spielberg and Tarantino. And we just recently did Clint Eastwood, which is up on the channel even as we speak. So make sure you like, sub, and comment down below. Please leave us your top 5 movies, because I always enjoy reading those and finding out different ones. And without further ado, Rich, you get to kick us off, my man. What's number 5 for you?
Number 5 for me is I'm out on a limb on this one. I think I'm the only one of the 5 or 4 of us that actually endorsed this movie, I think, but we'll find out. It's Shampoo, directed by Hal Ashby, starring Warren Beatty, Julie Christie, Goldie Hawn. Great supporting cast as well, Lee Grant and Jack Warden, and a young Carrie Fisher 2 years prior to Star Wars. So it's got a great cast. Warren Beatty plays a Beverly Hills hairdresser who's a philanderer. He's juggling 3 or 4 different females at the same time, relationships. And it's a sex comedy. It takes place on election night 1968 when Richard Nixon was elected president. There's a lot of that on the TV as they're sitting around at a party, sort of a hippie kind of party with hijinks going on in the hot tub and in the tennis courts there. There's all kinds of sex going on around them. It's that free love of the late 60s California lifestyle. I think it's well written, directed, and acted especially. Beatty is a charming sort of, I wouldn't say cad, but he's a man about town. He does his own thing with these women. He bullshits them all the way. He loves them all, but at the same time, he's having rendezvous, so to speak, with I think 4 women in a 24-hour period, which is Wilt Chamberlain-esque. But anyway, I love the movie. it's a favorite of mine, and I wanted to include it in my top 5, so I put it at number 5.
There you go. It's not a personal choice there.
Yep.
I kind of figured that was going to be the one for you, for sure.
Yeah, that was it. Yep.
Yeah. All right. For me, I went with a personal choice too. I know that this one is not going to be on everybody's list, but I picked Monty Python and the Holy Grail for number 5 for me. For me, it's a cult classic kind of comedy. I still remember always getting together with people at the university when I was going to college, and we would get together and watch this movie. And it's just fun because most of us know all the scenes and the script, and we're yelling out things just as much as the characters are. It's directed by Terry Gilliam and Terry Jones. Of that particular group, the Flying Circus, which is that same type of humor that features Michael Palin and John Cleese, retells the story of King Arthur and his Knights of the Round Table as they embark on a holy quest for the Holy Grail. Known for its really absurd and surreal humor, features some iconic scenes like the Knights of Ni, the Black Knight's Limbless Persistence. I mean, that's one of my favorite scenes altogether. Absolutely. And then, of course, the killer rabbit with big, sharp, pointy teeth. Blending satire and slapstick, this Monty Python's unique style showcased the medieval parody that has now become just like this thing of comic brilliance and cult favor. So I had to put it at number 5 for me.
Awesome.
Great choice. One of the funniest movies, I think.
Yeah, I love it.
Right.
All right, Randy.
My number 5 is a personal choice as well, and I think for me it's the best conspiracy thriller, and that's a genre I love, and that's 3 Days of the Condor. Even though I'm not much believing in conspiracies, I do love the genre. It's kind of like the ultimate bad day at the office with Redford, who comes back and finds all of his coworkers killed. He's like this nerdish bookworm, and he gets caught up in this elaborate government conspiracy, and how his book knowledge lets him survive these harrowing circumstances. The book was called 6 Days of the Condor, but in the movie, he only gets 3 days. But
it's filming, the budget.
But it also has Max von Sydow as the ultimate cool, calm, and collected hitman. Just great. And to me, it's just a great thriller, and it's a fun movie to watch over and over.
Excellent.
Very good.
All right, good choice. It was definitely in my mix. Yep. Doc.
My number 5 sounds like your number 5, Brian. I got Monty Python's The Holy Grail, man. That's my choice as well. I think Randy's little comment there at the end there, it's definitely one of the funniest movies. It's probably the funniest British movie of all time for me, probably.
Yeah.
And it's a top tier comedy for me in my life. So, yeah, it's got all the lines, the satire and everything else, and the Monty Python humor. I really enjoy. Life of Brian, anything along those lines. I think they're all kind of classics in some senses. They're not. John Cleese and the gang is really funny, but every time I hear Michael Palin talk, man, I just crack up. So they're gonna cross the bridge.
Yeah.
What is your name? It's just some great scenes in that movie, man.
Yeah. Great stuff.
The Holy Grail is a classic, man. That's gonna. There's other great movies that happened that year that are just. This is more appealing to me, man. I got the Holy Grail.
Yeah, definitely a rewatch one for us,
for
I
sure.
suppose. Yeah.
For sure.
All right. So we got to number 4 now. Rich.
My number 4 is Randy's number 5, and that's 3 Days of the Condor, directed by Sidney Pollack, coming on the heels of the Watergate fiasco a year or two later. Fantastic. It's one of my favorite Robert Redford roles here. It's kind of unassuming, and it's not over the top. He's just a real person who's caught up in this chaos, a lot of suspense. There's romance in here with Faye Dunaway as well. Sort of reminds me of Hitchcock, a way where he always puts the romance in with the intrigue and the CIA spy thriller stuff here. It's political mistrust in the government. I mean, that was big in the 70s with other films that we talked about, like what's the last one we did in 74?
Conversation.
Well, the Conversation and the one with Warren Beatty.
Parallax View.
Parallax View. There was a series of them that came out in the mid 70s, playing off, what was going on in our own country. And I just love this film. It's definitely rewatchable for me. I agree with Randy. Max von Sydow, great assassin kind of guy. He's he's in the elevator with Redford at one point, and there's some real tension there between the two characters. And at some point, I don't want to give the whole plot away, but he's a guy for hire, and he can be out to kill you one minute, and then he's on your side at another point. So it's unbelievable. Cliff Robertson has a role in here too.
That's right.
You can't trust his ass as far as you can throw him. He's telling you to come on in. Condor's the code name of Redford, and I like all the little ins and outs of learning about the spy game and what these guys. I mean, one minute you're going out for lunch, the next minute all your friends are whacked. It's an amazing movie. So 3 Days of the Condor is my number 4.
Nice.
Right.
All right. So now I picked the number 4. That this is the one I think that nobody will have. And I remember seeing this back in college, but it had been so long. So I watched it again thinking, well, maybe I didn't get it all, absorb it all correctly when I first saw it in college. But then I watched it again, and I'm going to have to watch it even yet still. But I find the movie so interesting. I've got The Mirror, or actually as it's pronounced in Russian, Zerkalo. It's a film that's directed by Andrei Tarkovsky. It's kind of this weird, poetic, enigmatic exploration of memory and time, and it's about the life of this poet. And so everything's kind of filmed in this very non-linear fashion. I mean, something that's non-linear even before, Tarantino decided he was going to do something like this, but it just kind of dives into his recollections of his childhood, his relationships, and it kind of reflects on the socio-political scene that's in Russia at the time, Soviet Russia, to be more specific. I think the cinematography is very stunning. It's very, very well done. And it kind of takes these dreamlike sequences and symbolic imagery and mixes it in as well. And it's got this really, really, really interesting soundtrack as well. So it's a movie that I feel like I like it a lot, and only because I feel like I got to keep going back and revisiting it and trying to learn new things from it. So I picked The Mirror by Andrei Tarkovsky.
Right on.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Wow. Well, I'm going with a great historical period film set in the 1700s, and that's Barry Lyndon by Stanley Kubrick. It chronicles the rise and fall of Raymond Barry, played by Ryan O'Neal, in a really understated performance that really works with this movie. And unfortunately, I think it was last year. Didn't we just lose him last year?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's kind of a conflict of passion and reason, where chaos or violence can always erupt. But it is one of the most beautiful films I think ever photographed, where many scenes just seem like paintings that have come to life. And to get some of that and recapturing some of that, they even found a special lens. I think they got it from NASA, so they could film by candlelight for some of the scenes, because they didn't want it to be garish with the lighting, because that's not how it would have been in those times. But this is an amazing film. One of the most, like I said, one of the most beautiful films I think ever photographed.
Very on.
I was kind of wondering whether you were going to have that one. So, okay, cool.
No list. I was thinking the same thing, Brian. Linda might show up here.
Yeah, I know. I was looking at it. Yeah. What about you, Doc?
My number 4 sounds like Rich's number 4, or Brady's number 5. I don't know how you want to put it there, but yeah, 3 Days of the Condor. You guys have touched on it already. The conspiracy, political thriller. Redford's great. Dunaway's fantastic, and Cliff you can't trust, like you mentioned there, and stuff like that. But and Max Benzino is awesome as the cool killer, and the CIA and all these little plot twists that happen throughout it. But the one thing the movie does have that hasn't been touched on, I think, is outside of anything else, it happens. It's like, go for lunch and things go sideways really quick here, and that's the story that takes off. Once that story takes off, man, that movie's got great pace.
It does.
You're into it, and it's there's not a lull. That's what I would say. You're kind of in it, and you don't even know it. It's not a fast pace, but it's got a really good pace to it, and it just grips you. Once you're into the movie, you're following along, like you're going for the ride with it. And any movie that can do that, to me, it's I love that kind of stuff, man. A political thriller, any thriller like that, it's right in there. And maybe not my favorite Redford performance, but it's really close to the top, man. He's got some good ones in his book, so this is in the neighborhood. So yeah, 3 Days, that makes my list number 4.
Yeah, it's got some good action scenes. The one where they have that shootout in the apartment, and then the
the bail guy. Yeah.
the male guy. He's an adversary, and then in the alleyway too. Or remember he calls him out to the alley, and there's
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
that's a pretty good scene too. There's a lot of good stuff in that movie. All right, number 3. I'm the first one to mention this, and that's Jaws. Falls in my number 3 hole. It really puts Steven Spielberg on the map as a name director, a summer blockbuster. I mean, it really put the blockbuster on the map too. Up until then, we didn't even hear about that. But this dominated the summer of '75. It's got everything you want in a movie. It's suspenseful. It's horror at times. The shark will make, when you finally see the shark, you literally jump out of your seat. The editing, the cinematography, the score, that music, that build up, fantastic, all exceptional stuff. Definitely an edge of your seat kind of movie. All 3 leads, Dreyfuss, sorry, Brian, Roy Scheider, and Robert Shaw, all excellently cast. They work well together. Just fantastic. And of course, it's based on the Peter Benchley bestseller of that time. So Steven Spielberg was off and running after Jaws and hasn't looked back since, really. Number 3.
Very good.
Okay, so I guess I can speak like I'm Richard Dreyfuss here. So that I'll say that I took Jaws at number 3 too. So yeah, I mean, it's awful hard to leave this off the list, considering it would probably be in the upper tier of horror movies for the 70s, and maybe in my top 20 horror movies of all time. So it's awful hard to leave it off the list altogether. You touched upon everything. I think everybody's performances in it are great. It was kind of nice. I was reading some backstory stuff about the tension between Richard Dreyfuss and Robert Shaw, and of course I was secretly on Robert Shaw's side and every step of the way. If he wants to give Richard Dreyfuss a bunch of shit, he's more than welcome to do that. I thought the score was really great. John Williams, I mean, obviously he'll go on to just keep making great scores as he goes along and everything. And it's I think something we had mentioned before is like, how long was it into the movie before we actually even saw the shark, in all of its glory, right?
Right.
It seemed like you were definitely more than halfway, maybe even closer to 2/3 of the way before you actually see the shark. So, I mean, Spielberg's kind of figuring out how to build suspense in the movie the right way. So Jaws has to be here. It's at my number 3 spot.
All right.
Yep.
Very good.
Randy?
Looks like my I think my top 3 are going to be a little out of order from your guys's, but we'll see here. Because my number 3 is actually Milos Forman's One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Star performance by Jack Nicholson, who pleads insanity to get out of his prison sentence, kind of a disruptive nonconformist. When we meet a unique cast of characters that's also in the place with them, and Louise Fletcher as Nurse Ratched portrays one of the cinema's probably most hated villains, and Nicholson's nemesis in this. She's a wonderful performance. His first sweep of the Oscars since it happened one night of the major categories. The scene where Nicholson as McMurtry narrates the World Series because Nurse Ratched won't let him watch it.
Watch it.
The most iconic classic scenes. But his battles with Nurse Ratched earn our sympathy, and McMurtry kind of becomes one of Nicholson's most endearing characters. It's just a great movie, and it's my number 3.
Good choice, for sure.
Very good choice.
What do you think, Doc?
Well, I think it was so much of a good choice as my number 3 as well.
Okay.
On that same lines as what you're talking about, it's a classic movie. Jack's awesome. We talked earlier about how Jack has a run, and when he starts off, a little bit, easy rider, and then he takes off, man. When he gets in a role, he really dominates. And you talked about Louise Fletcher and stuff like that, but the rest of that cast, Christopher Lloyd and Danny DeVito, and Danny DeVito's fantastic in this movie, maybe just overlooked in some senses. The whole cast is awesome. The acting as an ensemble cast, as you would look at it in that way, in the insane asylum and everything else, and the battles that they have back and forth and stuff like that, just as a higher view from watching a movie or a film this time. It's so well made, man, in a lot of senses. I just have a couple ahead of it just for some different other reasons, but One Flew Over. Like I said, the top three is flip a coin in some senses and some days, except for my number one. That'll always be my number one. But One Flew Over, man, it's kind of a classic, and Jack leading the charge, but the rest of that cast is not far behind him. But Jack's just charging here in the 70s, man, and this is along the way too.
Excellent. We're up to number two.
Number two for me is Dog Day Afternoon, directed by Sidney Lumet. A all-time performance by Al Pacino, coming off the two Godfather movies. I mean, he's so different in this, and yet just as electric on the screen. His performance is amazing. And his sidekick, John Cazale, who we've talked about before, who's made only 5 movies in his career before dying young, all 5 nominated for Best Picture. He is quiet, but a psychopath almost. He's frightening in this role. Al Pacino, that energy, he's racing around between the bank and the street scenes with the cops and the Attica. In case I didn't mention, it's a bank robbery gone wrong. There's hostages involved. The location shots in Brooklyn and New York City are top notch. You got all these 300 or 400 extras on the street who are adding to the drama. It's 70s filmmaking at its best. Lumet is known for that kind of style of getting in tight and then just bringing out these wonderful performances. Charles Durning as good as the negotiator, the cop.
Yeah.
You got Chris Sarandon as the partner who wants to have a sex change operation, and that's unbelievable. It's just a great all-time movie. It just comes up a little bit short because my favorite movie of all time is my number one. So
nice.
I'll leave it at that.
Okay. Well, my number two, I guess I'm just going to copy off Rich's paper some more here. I got Dog Day Afternoon here at number 2 for me, directed by Sidney Lumet. Follows Sonny Wurzik, you already mentioned, as played by Al Pacino, and I think it's really interesting to have this role in Al Pacino's, resume right alongside, but coming right off of the Godfather stuff too, just shows a little bit more of his range and his abilities. So, and you already mentioned it's a heist gone awry, as he's attempting to secure some funds for his partner's gender confirmation surgery. Very tense hostage situations in it. As the day unfolds and his motives kind of come out to the general public and stuff, it's kind of like there's just a surprising support for him, I think. And even back then, that would have been kind of like a weird thing to actually think that would happen, is that you would think that the sensibilities haven't really caught up yet in society, but they actually people are very sympathetic with, because love is love, that type of thing. So I think his performance is very powerful, good social commentary, and I think that it's just an overall strong movie. But just like you, Rich, the movie that's at number 1 just too hard to knock off number 1. So another year, maybe Dog Day would have taken it, but not today. So
all right. Well, my number 2 is one that's been talked about already, and it's Jaws, Steven Spielberg's masterful thriller. Kind of showed everybody else how to make a thriller. It's The Great White is kind of like a character in this one. It spawned a slew of sequels with other creatures like anacondas and bees and everything, but none of them can hold a candle to Jaws. It has so many great scenes. The scene where you first see the shark and Roy Scheider says you're going to have to get a bigger boat is just, it's just a classic. It's what's called a popcorn movie, but it's like the best popcorn movie ever.
Yeah. Excellent. Doc, what do you think?
My number 2 it's Dog Day for me. You guys have already touched on it. Pacino, Cazale, and Charles Durning are like the 3 maids in the movie, and they're all fantastic. I'm glad you touched on Charles Durning too. I think Rich, he deserves it, because when he is on screen, he's got an enduring quality of him. I'm trying to be just like a real guy when he's negotiating and stuff like that. It's really well done, man. We had just talked about Jack and One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and this would just be something that I'd probably just tick up just a tad. I think Pacino is just incredible in this movie. Absolutely. Godfather is one thing and stuff like this, but on an acting level, this could be his best role ever.
Yeah.
He's in the whole movie. the movie goes for 2 hours, whatever it is, and he's in the whole bloody thing. And but he's like, he's compassionate, and he's a robber, and he's all over the place. He pulls so many different things. He's trying to keep everybody together, including the hostages and everybody as he goes along and stuff like this. But I think it's a powerful movie. Still stands up to the test of time here. This is relevant to today's world. And we're talking here in 75 about something like this on the subject matter. What a leap of faith in making a movie at this stature of this time. I think it's kudos across the board, man. And there's no reason why it's not number one. It's just because it's a classic to me. But yeah, Dog Days. That was my number two. Those first two I wrote down are one, two. So
perfect.
Yeah.
All right. So we're at number one already. Not bad.
Number one, easy pick for me. It is One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. I've loved this film since the first time I saw it. Lucky enough to see it on the big screen a couple of times. Jack Nicholson at this time, like Doc was saying earlier, was on a major role, from Easy Rider, 5 Easy Pieces, Carnal Knowledge, The Last Detail, Chinatown, and this, all in a row. I mean, he could do no wrong. Louise Fletcher, Nurse Ratched, greatest villain, arguably in history. I mean, in the history of film. And I love Brad Dourif as Billy Bibbit here too. Yeah, as the stuttering, shy kind of kid who's just dominated by Nurse Ratched until Jack shows up and he shows him, the nonconformist that he is and free spirit, that he's going to buck the system, and he needs this pack to do things they wouldn't even think of doing before he showed up, like go out and on this fishing trip, they sneak out over the fence, and the World Series that Randy mentioned, who he's broadcasting because she shot him down because she had control of the group in the therapy session, and they weren't going to buck her at that point. Well, those therapy sessions, by the way, are priceless with some of the stuff that goes on with the characters, with DeVito. And I want to give a shout out to Will Sampson as the chief, too. He's really effective in this role.
Yes.
A great supporting performance. Even the people in the background, they're so realistic that you buy into what you're looking at. They look like they're here for a reason. They're a little bit whacked in the head or whatever happened to them in life that sent them there. The orderlies are very, very good too, as they fight with Jack at times. Everything about this movie is fantastic. The scene where he has to go the electric shock therapy, he practically turns purple. I don't know how they did that. I mean, it looked like he actually got nailed with those things, and it was very realistic. Milos Forman, great director in his own right, and again, Randy mentioned 5 Oscars, the 5 big prizes: picture, actor, actress, screenplay, and director. Won them all. It's only been done 3 times. It happened one night. This film and Silence of the Lambs, the only 3 to do it. So it's a special film for me, and I had to put it at number 1. Although Dog Day is really, really excellent.
Yeah. Okay, so number 1 for me, One Who Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, Milos Forman, based on Ken Kinsey's novel. You've already touched upon it. I think, her, Louise Fletcher in it, I think she actually, when they listed the greatest villains of all time, I think she was only second to Darth Vader. I mean, so it was like, you had to like get something that was totally fictional completely, to actually be more evil than she was considered. There's actually the series on Netflix. I just started watching it, called Ratched.
Yep.
It's about her when she was younger, and I haven't really dived into that yet, but I heard it's really good. So I definitely wanted to dive into that. But you're right. All the extra characters, Danny DeVito, Christopher Lloyd. And then there's like the guy who was like in Ghost, the train guy. He's one of the characters. There's all these little background characters from these smaller actors. The one big guy with the funny ears that's from the Hills Have Eyes.
Yeah,
he's one of those characters. It's like they fill the space with those kind of oddball characters to give you that feeling that that you're just surrounded by people who are seriously disturbed in some ways. So Jack's performance is out of this world. One of my favorite movies of all time. So definitely number 1 for this year in 1975. So
Well, one of my all-time favorite movies came out this year, but apparently it's not anybody else's. Um, and that's The Man Who Would Be King, adapted from Rudyard Kipling's short story. This is a great old-fashioned adventure yarn from John Huston, who's made so many classic films. It also has these sublime performances by Sean Connery and Michael Caine. Kipling is even inserted as a character in the movie, although when he wrote the story, he wasn't in the story. But the journey, they're going this journey to be wealthy and to be rulers in this remote country, and they're actually wildly successful, but eventually undone. And fantastic storytelling, the kind of which you really don't see anymore. And I think that was an amazing movie from John Huston.
Nice.
Very good.
Yep. It is good.
Yeah, sure it is.
Not my top 5, but it's very good.
Doc, what do you think?
Me? I'm going over to New England. I'm going to the little town of Amityville, man. That's where I'm going. Jaws is the best movie of 75, guys. Jeez. Well, this is the ultimate horror thriller. This is the beginning of setting off a whole bunch of things that happen in movies from here on in. These other movies that I mentioned that I love are really, really great. This is changing theater. This is changing film. The top 3, Spielberg's making this with Dreyfuss. He's hitting, man. Schneider and Robert Shaw, man. That's too bad Murray Hamilton there's the mayor and stuff like that. He's got to get those beaches open and stuff. But this movie's a classic. Jaws is like this 1975, man. I saw this in the drive-in.
Yeah.
So I saw this at 6, and it's been with me my whole life. One of my favorites. Jaws is there's every scene's classic, especially from the chalkboard on. When it goes from there, it just takes off at a whole different level. But the opening scenes, the music, the script, how they're writing the script on the fly in a lot of senses, making this movie as you look at it later, it turned out to be the ultimate masterpiece. And I don't know how Spielberg did it, but he did, and it shows what a talent he was at a young age.
Yep.
Jaws is a classic, man. This is top tier stuff. Easily my number 1 for 75.
Nice. Yeah. So what we got basically, guys, is we only had 2 matches, which is surprising to me. That was very surprising.
Randy called it.
We had we had 8 total movies.
Yeah,
so that also told you, even though we were far apart in some places, we were really close together in others with that kind of grouping. I think I had 3 Days of the Condor and Barry Lyndon were my first 2 out for my list for honorable mention. So
I have a couple. I really like Nashville by Robert Altman. And
I was wondering if Randy was going to have that. I thought that was going to be one of Randy's ones.
Yeah.
But
the other one I like is Night Moves, Arthur Penn's movie starring Gene Hackman.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And Woody Allen's Love and Death, a personal favorite. Those are the 3 that were hanging on the fringes there for a bit.
I had written my first 2 out were Dog Day Afternoon and Nashville.
Right.
But then I also had written down Night Moves, Picnic at Hanging Rock, the Peter Weir movie, Monty Python, and Love and Death.
Right.
Nice.
The Man Who Would Be King, Night Moves, Rollerball, and The French Connection 2, man. I think that gets overlooked.
Really?
And,
I have yet to even see it.
That third act is really good, man. That movie, it gets overlooked, man. I think it's underrated. It's a good sequel.
I actually saw that on the big screen, believe it or not.
They did, right on.
Yes,
Man.
they did. Yep.
I saw Shampoo on the big screen. I remember.
Yep, me too.
Wow.
I saw 4 of my 5. The only one I didn't see on the big screen that I had was 3 Days of the Condor. I had to catch up with that later, but glad I did.
I feel happy that I saw 1 on the big screen.
Jaws. You were only 6. Come on.
Yeah, it's only 6.
Well, that'll do it for 1975. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Be sure to check out our other videos from 65 up through. Also, other videos, including the top 10 movies from particular directors. Please like, sub, and comment down below. We really want to keep these videos in the algorithm, especially the commenting. We really relish when people are actually commenting on the videos. Gives us some type of feeling like it's all worth the effort. So we really would appreciate it if you guys could do that for me. So thanks to Randy for joining us. Doc, thank you very much. Rich,
You got it.
and we'll catch you guys for 1976 in just about a week. Take care. Bye-bye.